and you're listening to a Token Nerd Network podcast. 3, 2, 1. Where we ramble on about geeky things. Things ranging from Batman to pop figures to Star Wars.
From Token Nerd Podcast.
Stay spicy, my friends. Hey everybody, welcome to the Token Nerd Podcast, where we ramble on about geeky things ranging from Batman to pop figures to Star Wars, and sometimes weird sci-fi. I'm your host, Anthony Pettiford.
And I'm Addison Lee.
And we're here with Addison Lee. I'm sorry, I wanted to do a whole little intro thing, but that's fine. This is the first episode of 2018, episode 58. We are here. You know, we're going to start off the new year with we're going to call this episode A Bright New Year. I wish everyone could just see your face right now. But no, we're going to cut through everything, cut through all the lag and drag. What'd you do over the new year? Because as we're family, so we spent Christmas together.
We did.
But we spent New Year's separate.
Yeah.
I went to Cleveland with my new fiance. That's something that happened over the holiday break as I got engaged.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. That's the first time you've actually said congratulations to me. You were there during the engagement. You actually had the camera. So for those of you who are on our Instagram page, you guys saw the picture of me proposing. That was taken by the casual movie photographer.
Mm. It was nice.
It was nice.
It was cold too.
It was freezing cold. It was a good sign because it started to snow. But no. So what'd you do for the new year?
I was sick most of the time, so I didn't do anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. I went to bed at 7. We stayed with Abby's dad, and we ended up playing Rummy Cube. Rummy Cube. It's like Rummy, I think. It's this game. Anyway, so we played it, and I scored 0 points.
Sounds
0
about
points,
right.
but like they're so competitive. And I can say this about her, is that she wants to beat her dad so badly. We played for 3.5 hours.
And you got 0 points in 3 hours.
0 points in 3 hours. And so we ended up playing, and I was like, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to take a nap before the new year. I went to bed at 6:30. Abby came and woke me up half an hour before the ball dropped. I ended up going downstairs, and there was no TV, and there was no real countdown, and we just sat on the couch, and she played, because I let her use my Game Boy 3DS, and she is currently playing Alpha Sapphire because of Pokemon Go. Right now, we've just entered the 3rd generation of Pokemon that have been showing up, so I got her the 3rd generation for the 3DS so she could play through and kind of see the Pokemon.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was fun, but yeah, the new year came and went, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I guess that's one of those things that when you're...
Well, when you realize that New Year's is just New Year's, and you do kind of do the
really
same
special
thing
about it.
Yeah, there's no religion to divide us on it. Everyone celebrates it, so it's like, who cares?
Yeah. Well, this is actually something I wanted to push to its own separate podcast. But so with my future nephew, he came up and was like, "Hey, have you heard of Beyblades?" And I went, "Listen, son, take a seat. Let me tell you a story about Beyblades." And so apparently that's a new thing that's coming back. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that last year was Pokemon was having its big comeback. And so
now it's Beyblades.
Yeah, now it's Beyblades.
I just real quick. I remember when we first found Beyblades. It was completely by accident because we
at Kohl's.
No, it was at Sears.
Or sorry, Sears. Yeah, you're right.
There was one section. It was not near. There wasn't a toy section. It was just there was just one end cap that just had all Beyblade stuff, and we we
bought 2. We bought. Drasil was for me the blue turtle.
No, you got. Wait, did you?
Yeah, because it was green.
Oh, and I got
I got the green turtle, and you got
the phoenix, the bird.
Dozer.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember the fight. Dragoon. I'm trying to remember what Kai says when because
I remember the there was the tiger guy.
Yeah. I got that one too.
But no, so what he has now is a Beyblade that are like he even showed me a little bit of the anime that was on Netflix. But so what was interesting is that the pieces now blow up. Like it when it loses, it pops, and so it breaks to pieces when you lose. And so when I played with him, it was he kept beating me, and I couldn't. It was really annoying because it was like after I had talked this whole thing about how I had Beyblades as a kid, and so one of the big things I want to do now before we go back
Dronzer.
to Dronzer, okay. One of the big things I want to do before we go back to Cleveland is I want to make sure that I can at least find one of ours. I don't. What was it called? The purple one that we had. The one that was really dangerous. Do you remember what I'm talking about? The purple Beyblade.
No, but I remember because we used to play Beyblades when it was just plain plastic with the metal ring.
Yep.
And then the second generation was the motor, which because the funny thing is when I was in school, I always had the one best thing above everyone else. Mm-hmm. So like when everyone else was using the regular ones, I would have the motor one. So I would beat everyone. But then when everyone else got the motor, I would lose. And then when they switched over to metal, then I was the first one to have a metal one, and I would beat everyone because everyone would laugh at me like, "Wow, your Beyblade is so small, it's gonna lose." And then it would just knock all the plastic ones off. Mm-hmm. But then when everyone else got metals, then that's when I started losing. Well, so pretty much I was only on top when I had the one when I would like upgrade from everyone else.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is,
I'm sorry, real quick. I was also a captain of a Beyblade team in my school. We only had 2 teams, and we would play at recess. Yeah, we actually had a Beyblade team.
You guys have jackets?
No.
You didn't get a Letterman jacket or a patch?
We were 5th graders. So no, there was nothing.
But no, here's another interesting thing. What do you think they were battling in? They got a dome, like a plate. You know how you said the battle stadium for Beyblades? What do you think they fought in instead?
I'm going to imagine like a giant mixing bowl.
No, they. I just reminded me of you and I. They had one of the saucer sleds.
Oh,
that's what they played in. I thought that was really funny because that's what we did. But no, so yeah, I thought that was really interesting. So now my big thing is I want to find some of mine and some of yours and go back to Cleveland and.
Oh man,
just educate him.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like dig through that.
And I don't think it shouldn't be too hard to find it. I mean, in my mind, I feel like I know where they're going to be. But these things are made to break. Like, they're made to pop. And so ours aren't.
So real quick.
Yes.
There is the one character is obviously based off like a Chinese martial artist. His name is Ray.
Yeah.
His Beyblade, the tiger, is called Drigger. That is...
Trigger, please.
Yeah, that is dangerously close.
Well, I don't know.
That is like 2 beers away from slurring into something wrong.
Well, you shouldn't be drinking and playing Beyblades anyway. Our cousin Zeke, I remember when we got him into Beyblades, and he go, "You want to play Beyblade? Boy, what did he say? He said like Beyblade.
Beyblade.
No,
I'm not sure.
He never actually said the full word. Everyone thought it was so cute because he didn't pronounce it correctly. But no, so that we'll save that for a different day. We'll talk about the things that we were into as kids and how they're starting to come back and make their way back through the kids of this new generation. But let's jump to what we are actually here to talk about today, and that is the movie Bright. So it was announced that Will Smith was doing a movie with Netflix, and everyone was so excited. It was going to be a mixture of what two great movies do you think that we needed? Like, we needed to mix 2 movies together, and it was going to make something that was super awesome that we were all asking for. Do you know what those 2 movies would be, Addison?
From what I'm assuming, and from what I really want also, I would say probably Training Day and Lord of the Rings.
Oh my gosh, it's almost as if we pre-planned this whole discussion. Yes.
That's how everyone else described this movie before watching it.
Yeah. So it is a cop movie that has orcs in it.
And fairies.
And fairies and elves and magic and stuff like that. So I want to go out there and say right now, this is a spoiler review, so we're going to mention spoilers in it. And then I'm going to do the best. I've only watched it through once. And so we're going to give our initial reaction, and then we're going to go through and do our pros and cons of each one. So I'll throw it to you in just a few words, overall thoughts on it.
Overall, this movie is the complete definition of an okay movie. Like it was enough that I almost didn't even want to do a podcast about it because I was just like the credits started, I was just like, okay, what's on YouTube? Like I didn't even think much about it. Like it was one of those where I understand what they were going for, and as someone who, as a creator, you're just like, you know what, you created something, cool. I hope you make your money back because I don't want anyone to lose their job, but I also don't want there to be a sequel. So it's just like, just make enough where it's like, we can just, you know what, this happened, let's just walk away. But now, recently, they have announced a sequel.
They announced the sequel before it even came out.
It came out. They announced it only a few days ago.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
it only came out a few days ago.
No,
I mean,
it came out.
It came out on December 22nd. That's still only a couple days ago. I mean, it's January 8th or January 5th.
That was like a week or two. That's like 2 weeks ago. It's been a while.
Okay.
Anyway, so I do not want the sequel. The movie was literally okay.
Okay.
And I do feel like though that Joel Edgerton should get an Oscar because he tried so hard in this movie. He needs like an honorary Oscar for like, hey, you tried your hardest in this movie. Will Smith did his Will Smith stuff, and usually I don't say that. Usually I see Will Smith's different acting. Like even in Suicide Squad, I saw a different Will Smith, but this one was kind of just like, okay, he's gonna mix his
like humor, and he's a badass, and then all of a sudden, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So for me, I liked it. To be fair, I had this whole bit where I had heard the reviews beforehand. I heard that people said it was sucked. It was the worst movie of the year, and I went into it with the idea that it was gonna be the worst movie of the year. I initially couldn't get past the opening credits. I was so annoyed by it because it was so on the nose. It was so forced that, oh, look at the police brutality is so awful. And I know we live in a world where, there's a police issue. And, I've had this discussion with some friends of mine and some, not family members yet, but future family members about, police brutality and that atmosphere. Because as a young person of color, I've had instances where I've been in the car. We're light-skinned. And people act like as if it only happens to people who are dark skinned, but no, it doesn't. I've had instances where I've been in a car and I've been pulled over and I've had to call my dad because I had to have someone else on the line so they could hear what was happening. But in this movie, I initially got on and thought I'm gonna have this whole bit where I'm gonna go on and on and then just say F this movie and how much I hate it, and that's what I was thinking. The whole introduction of Will Smith, hated. Yeah, I know this is going into cons, but I did not care for Will Smith in this movie. But Joel, is it Edgerton?
Yeah,
Edgerton.
Joel Edgerton.
Yeah, I absolutely loved his character. I think this movie could have been so much better if they had solely followed him.
The only one issue is that I feel like they didn't really know what they want his character to be because it was kind of just like, okay,
because it's
like be naive.
Well, we had to
not be by the books.
Okay, but we had to
but be naive
stop.
again. I'm just saying that's how they were directing.
But we had to see him from Will Smith's angle, and that was the annoying part. We didn't get to see him as. So when he talked about how they see him as a traitor, so he's alone. Will Smith might whine and complain, oh, I don't want to ride with them. Well, he's still a human. And I know the idea was that humans were white people, orcs were black people, very on the nose black people, giant jerseys and all that junk.
Well, they were big orcs. They had to wear big jerseys.
But no, so when we had Will Smith and his white wife, which was on purpose, who had no chemistry with him.
Well, she was only in like what? She was in one scene, and then there was one scene.
No point in having her in it.
And then there was one scene. Well, it had to show that he had something to live for.
His daughter. You could have easily just left the daughter, because at least the daughter did something. But anyway, so no, she talked, and she talked at different points. She was the motivation.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, you got to go back to your daughter. You got to do this." We didn't really talk about his wife. But anyway, so I enjoyed that. I would see a sequel. I would happily see a sequel. But so that's my initial thoughts. We'll just go on to three. Let's do three negatives, three negatives. So, what were your or five negatives?
Five negatives.
Five negatives.
I felt like the organization that they were fighting against was not developed enough. They mentioned the Dark Lord, and that's about it. And we didn't really get much about it. And I now that they announced a sequel, I'm understand that we're going to probably get
But
more
we shouldn't
about that.
have to rely on a
Exactly.
possible sequel to explain a movie.
Yeah. And at the same time, I was fine when they just said, "Oh yeah, there was a Dark Lord, blah blah blah." But then because they mentioned that at the beginning of the movie, I was like, "Okay, you know what? Cool. You don't have to explain everything in the world, but there was an evil figure. He had the support of orcs. That's why orcs are hated. Cool." But then when it became that like, "Oh yeah, we're going to summon this Dark Lord," it almost kind of became a Steppenwolf kind of thing in Batman v Superman, where you saw Steppenwolf at the end of the movie, and you're like, "Oh, that seemed like it'd probably be more interesting than what we saw." So that was one. Was just I just didn't understand their motivation. Like, why were there elves trying to bring back the Dark Lord? We didn't really get that. Yeah, Will Smith was another negative for me, even though he was fine in the movie for what he was doing, but I just wanted more from him. Try to keep these short. What else was there? Even though I might contradict myself a little bit, but I did want a little bit more in the world. Like, I wanted to know more about Elftown.
Yeah.
Like, why
you want to explore the world a little bit more?
Yeah. But again, like you said, we shouldn't rely on a movie or a sequel to do that. We should, understand more, and not just we don't go to Elftown. We stay where we are. Another thing, the dialogue. Some of the dialogue was just really, really, really
Bad.
weak.
Will
And
Smith's not a cusser.
It's not even he's a cusser. It's when he's a cusser when he can ad lib. When it's written form, it sounds written.
I know, but for me, it's like when you yell, throw out the F word and stuff like that. It just feels like it's forced. It doesn't feel natural. And
I also feel like because when Will Smith can't say damn anymore, unfortunately.
Why?
Because that was his catchphrase in Fresh Prince. So even if he says damn, normally people will just be like, "Oh, that's a Fresh Prince thing." It's like, no, he just said damn. It's like, that sounds like he's Fresh Prince. Because that's all I heard about Suicide Squad was that every time he said damn, it's like, "Oh, it's like I was watching Fresh Prince again." It's like, get over yourself.
I hate people.
Yeah. So yeah, the dialogue was really bad. I also feel like the cops were just very on the nose.
Yeah.
Evil. Like,
There were.
that's how they talk about minorities in their in the room, but they were just so over the top, just bad. And it's like, "Oh, we can't have this orc on us, so we're gonna kill him." It's like, really?
But it was like there was not a single good officer. And I'll get to my negatives. I think you have one left.
No, that's five.
Oh, that's five?
But no, especially the scene where they're in the briefing room, and this one they made sure she was black on purpose. She she sat next to, was it Nick? Is that
Yes.
And she was like, "Oh, is that your cousin?" It was just a police report of an orc, and he's just like, "No." And I'm sure that happens in real life, but it was just it was so on the nose that it felt like someone's. It was like you're playing t-ball, but with your face, and they're just squaring you up and hit you in the back.
The thing about racism in 2017 is it's so subtle. As I forget who I was listening to, and someone said it best. Racism in 2017 is where it's evolved to a point where you, as the person who's being offended, stop and go, was that meant to hurt my feelings? Was that meant to be racist? Because now it's so vague. Now it's so underhanded. No one's brave enough to be racist to your face, so they throw little underhanded comments at you.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought this should have had. It shouldn't have been so in your face.
It should have been more subtle.
Yeah. And so for me, I had an issue with one. I had an issue that we made it so that it couldn't just be orcs are a minority. Orcs were black people.
Yeah.
Were a caricature of what people expect black people to be. I did not like that. I did not like like you said, the super brutal police police brutality, like the fact that they stopped them in the middle of a street and just beat them down like it was 1970. And that could make sense, like this is the world they're living in, like it's modern time, but for them they're still in a 70s style or a 70s mindset compared to us.
Yeah.
I did not like Will Smith. I didn't like his character. I didn't care for the development of the character. I hated the one scene where they were driving through whatever town, and you see two orcs, and they're beating up on him, and he goes, "What are you? Are you one of them or one of us?" And it's like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, it's.
and then he says, I wanted to be an officer since I was 5. This badge means more to me than anything else. But the one sin, the absolute sin of this movie, and I hate when movies do this, is when you tell me a better story than the movie I'm watching. I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the whole idea that there's a world where the Dark Lord rose 2,000 years ago and the orcs thought that he was the best bet, so they went with him. I would have loved to see that story. But instead we got 2,000 years later. We're
gonna get a comic. I know. I can already see that we're gonna get a comic of this war.
But then like I said, I only watched this once. I didn't watch it enough times to know all the details. But he mentioned this historic figure, like the one that beat the Dark Lord was an orc.
Yeah.
So our savior was an orc, but we still, I don't know. It was a lot for me to try to comprehend. Like it kind of was stepping on its own toes.
It's kind of like, let's be honest. Let's say there was a black soldier in World War II that got to Hitler and shot him. It wouldn't change people's opinions.
It
wouldn't change anything.
Well, all right. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go over my dislikes, but I do not care for Max Landis.
Yeah.
I hate Max Landis so much so that when he was on like Screen Junkies and stuff like that, back when movie fights wasn't, movies fights for your sexual rights, and yeah, I said it. But no, but the joke I was making was how bad they are, not that the people who came out were bad. I want to make that clear. No, but what I mean is I did not care to watch that show when Mike Landis was on, because I think Mike Landis is a douchebag.
I don't have a problem with Max Landis. It's kind of like Kevin Smith, where I enjoy their commentary, but I don't enjoy their work as much. Mm-hmm. I feel like everyone else, I love Kevin Smith's old stuff. Like, I still think Chasing Amy is a perfect movie, but nowadays I don't really care for what he's doing. Or it's not. Okay, I just don't like some of the stuff he does, but I love his commentary on stuff like his reviews and his podcast. Much like Max Landis, like I like hearing him talk about his writing process, because he's a good writer, just not some of the things he writes are always the best.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's a writer on this movie, which ultimately means here's my thing, and once it gets to other people, they'll change it to like he's like, I remember because I follow him on Twitter, and he said like the line fairy lives don't matter.
I hated that.
He said that was ad lib, because he said that was not in the script.
Okay,
so
I'm glad that you said that, because that was when I was going to go on to why I don't like Max Landis, because he puts these things in there as if he's trying to be meta, but that seems like a Will Smith thing to say now that it's said. But I do not care. I did not find that funny. I thought that was offensive, and I also don't like the fact that it's like, I don't know. Like I said, everyone in this movie was a stereotype.
Yeah,
was a caricature stereotype. Like the gang next door.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only line I found funny was like, "Hey, yeah, just keep doing your gangster stuff. I'm just trying to sell my house." I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
I found that was funny because it made me think of that episode of SpongeBob when Squidward's trying to sell his house, and he's trying to make sure SpongeBob is like not doing his SpongeBob things. And yeah. I found that funny, but now once again, because what I find especially with Max Landis is that a lot of his scripts get changed. Like because he wrote Young Frankenstein with Daniel Radcliffe and James McAvoy, and when they asked him about it, he's just like, I wrote
Young Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. Or not Young Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Victor Frankenstein. Came out a few years ago.
Like, he would take credit for that.
No, and he was like, I wrote a movie called Victor Frankenstein, and I have not seen it get made yet.
Oh.
So it's hard to tell like how much of his stuff is, other than like I think the TV show he writes for, I can't remember the name. It's a really long name. But so you always have to give the writers a little more leeway because you don't know how much they're changing.
And like I said, a lot of it's just that I don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
And there were things in this movie, but like I guess I forgot who I'm talking about. A lot of it came from Will Smith, who does ad lib a lot. So I guess I should watch what I say.
And not even
try to
just
back
and not
up.
even just Will Smith, because you have the director David Ayer who did Suicide Squad,
That was another point.
End of Watch, Fury, and he wrote Training Day back in the day. He wrote Training Day, so that's why this movie was that's why they keep comparing it to Training Day, because that's what David Ayer wrote.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if because I think he's writing the sequel. So
Okay.
he's writing and directing the sequel. So it's hard to say like what he said. Hey, you know what? Why don't you try saying this or whatever?
Yeah.
So, give some writers a little credit.
Okay. So with that being said, we'll move past the two of them. I mean, what was there another thing I really didn't like? Oh, just the villain. At one point, it kind of became I got lost in what was happening.
Oh yeah.
There were things that I loved, but they were just like the orcs showing up, not the end, but the orcs started chasing them. That was because they had that party, which I thought was really cool. The gangster in the wheelchair was kind of strange. Poison. And then every cop being dirty. Okay, here's another thing. This is my last one, and then we'll go on to pros.
Okay.
I hated the fact that everyone who showed extreme racism was someone of color, except for the nurse dude from the Mindy Project.
Well, there were just a lot of minority characters in it,
and that's I know they're trying to make a point of like,
well,
it's humans versus orcs.
Well, it's not even that. I'm just saying like there were just a lot of minority characters, and all the people that like you end up hating there were like 3 white cops and then 1 Asian cop that ended up dying by Will Smith. There was the
but their stuff was just like
the FBI. No, it was Internal Affairs. And
yeah,
they were all white, and they were.
No, it was Asian and
there was
Hispanic.
one Asian guy.
But no, but my point was like, I guess but there was still minorities. My thing was just like the girl who was sitting next to, like, is this you related to them? Like, it was a stupid, like, it was blatantly, look how racist these people are, and I know it's how racist humans are to orcs, but it was I'm trying to think the best way to say this. So like,
it's Hollywood gymnastics. It's a way, like, how we say we want more minorities in film, and then that's how we get a slave movie. They're like, you wanted more minorities in film? Well, here's another. Here's a sequel to 12 Years. It's 15 years a slave now. And it's stuff like that. So he's like, oh, you want more minorities? All right. Well, guess what? They're all gonna be racist in this movie. It's like, well, that's not what we meant. It's like, you said you wanted more minorities.
Nah, we're
and
gonna
that's
get
how
to
you
you.
get. So it's Hollywood gymnastics.
It was also kind of weird to hear them talk about, the magic wand. I know it's the world that we're in, but it was just weird to hear them get all serious about the magic wand. Okay.
Well, I think this actually goes into another con that I just thought of. It was the fact that the tone was really off. Like, they would make jokes, but the tone of the movie was so serious. It was so serious, but then they also try to play it as like Will Smith always had a quip, Joel Edgerton had a quip, and it was just like, all right.
I felt like Joel Edgerton's stuff was okay because they made him awkward.
Oh, I'm not saying.
At one point, it was like when he dropped he got the bullets out. So at one point they're getting chased in their police car by a bunch of gangs, and the door gets blown off. Will Smith's loading his shotgun, drops the shells, and he goes, Butterfingers, and he goes, there, we were so close. We were so close.
I find that funny, and I'm not saying that the jokes are good or bad. It's just the tone of it, where it's like, you didn't take Men in Black seriously, but they were taking it seriously, as in like, this is what we're doing. But at the same time, most of it was all jokes.
For a sci-fi comedy, Men in Black was just about perfect.
Yeah,
over the first one.
Yeah,
just about perfect.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this one was trying to be like End of Watch, but it was just kind of like, well, hold on, we gotta make some laughs, and it's like, you don't have to make it funny. Like, we as an audience, we will take anything seriously if we know that the people who are working on it are taking it seriously. And for this one, I could tell that there were some people taking it seriously and some people weren't. And I think that was a major flaw in the movie, because it was just like, okay, no one's taking this movie seriously, so let's make some jokes, and it's like, no, take this movie seriously, because this isn't something humans didn't just fall into this world. This has been like what, 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So everything that should be happening should just be as it is. And I felt like it was too quippy, and it should have been like just a normal cop drama.
Yeah.
But
like I said, it should have followed not Will Smith should have been the supporting character. It should have followed Joel Edgerton when he was like, "Hey, I'm alone in this world. Like, I have nothing. I have no one who supports me. I am one of a kind. They brought me in here as a their diversity hire. Yeah, thank you. No one wants me here. They're looking for me to do something wrong.
Yeah.
But no. So we talked about what we didn't like for half an hour. Let's talk about our 5 pros. So once again, I'll throw it back to you. What are 5 things that you really liked about this movie or tolerated?
I thought the prosthetics were really good in this movie.
I agree with that.
I thought the orcs looked really cool, and they're all, they all had different looks, but at the same time all the same. So it wasn't like they were trying too hard to make sure all the orcs looked different, but you could tell that they were different, like the fangs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I really liked. Even the elves looked really cool too. So effects wise, it worked. Positives. I wasn't bored all the time.
Okay.
There were some points where I was really bored, but then some of the action scenes were they were good. Some of Will Smith's jokes were okay. I already talked about the makeup.
Yeah, you did. All right. So I guess that's all you got going for pros.
Honestly, yeah, because again, like I said at the beginning, the movie was literally just okay in the fact that I could follow the story for the most part. Everything looked cool, everything looked lived in, nothing looked clean. I really like that, because this is supposed to be, grimy fantasy LA. And I really like that. Yeah, and that's about it. And like I said, I mean, I probably if I was doing like a Rotten Tomatoes thing, I probably wouldn't give it a fresh. But it's just like, movie happened.
Well, since you mentioned that, I'm going to tell you. So currently on Rotten Tomatoes, as of January 5th, it is sitting at the tomato meter is 28%.
I wouldn't give it that low.
And then the audience score is 87%.
I wouldn't give it that.
But no. So also I want to point out, for those of you who are listening, we're doing this podcast as if you've seen it already.
Oh yeah,
we're not walking through the scene by scene. For the sake that we're trying to keep this podcast under 50 minutes. If we did a play-by-play, we'd be here forever, because you and I go into deep details.
And then the more and more we talk about, probably the worst movie would be like, oh yeah, that did happen.
Well, okay, so let me go on to my pros so you can kind of get through this podcast. My pros are obviously Joel Edgerton. Great. I love the mythos that they created in this world. I don't like so much that I don't like the way he killed the fairy. Sorry, that's a con. There I go. You're right. As I think about it, I'm finding things I didn't like.
You said you didn't like it, so
yeah. But so the things I did like is I liked Joel. I liked the prosthetics, like you said, the way they looked, the mythos of the universe, the way the orcs said, "Oh yeah, you're blooded, your fangs." Like, he's a round tooth because he filed or didn't have the teeth.
It's almost kind of like I felt like it's almost kind of like bleaching skin. Like yeah, that's how I took that.
Then there was a comment made by Rodriguez. I forget what department he worked for, but he was also a police officer.
He was like a sheriff. He was a sheriff of a particular part of LA.
Okay. It was when he said there was a guy waving a machete around. And this is the interesting thing. So they showed two...
It wasn't a machete. It was a sword. It was a broad... Oh, a great sword.
Okay. So there were 2 scenes. There was one scene where it looked like they had just stopped an orc for nothing. Yeah, we don't know what he did, but they're like, police are beating this orc down in the street. in front of his wife and stuff like that. And that's when then they go on to someone else, and there's a human. He has this broadsword, like you said, and he's swinging it around, and they're like laughing. People pull up, and they're just like looking at him. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna calm him down here in a second." They don't jump him. They don't shoot at him or anything. And I thought that was a very cool like difference of how the country is right now, how we're feeling, or how the country tension.
There are a lot of videos of just seeing that where they kill a black man because they think he might have something, and how they kind of stand around waiting for a white guy with a gun to tire himself out or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well, this brings me to I think I had other pros, but I think my last one I'm really going to point out is it's a scene. Well, it was a scene. It was when Will Smith had walked out and they said, "Hey, go out there. We have the wand, and we're gonna split it between the other dirty cops. Will Smith, you're in on it too. You just gotta go out there and kill your partner." And he goes out there and he confronts me. He says, because in the beginning of the movie, Will Smith gets shot point blank.
Yeah,
by a shotgun.
By an orc.
Yeah, by an orc, and the orc runs away. And Nick, the orc, Joel Edgerton's character, goes after the shooter. And they said, "You let him go," because apparently he was like, "Yeah," and he jumped onto a fire escape and ran away. And they're like, "Well, orcs aren't agile."
Yeah, they said he said he knocked me out in an alleyway, and I saw that he jumped onto one of those
fire escapes and got away.
Yeah.
I loved the scene where he broke, and Joel was like, "Listen, what happened? I let him go." And I was like, "You let him go? You picked your own kind? He's like, "No." He's like, "I lost the guy in the crowd." So what happens is he chased the guy, the orc that shot him, lost him. He ran down an alleyway looking around, and he just saw another kid.
A kid orc.
A teenage orc who was tagging a wall.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh crap, like behind me are a bunch of other cops and humans who are now wanting to kill the first orc they see because they just killed a cop." And he said, "To save this kid, I helped him get away." I absolutely loved it. He said, "I did the right thing." That whole scene, I think, if I was going to show anyone the part of this movie or any part of this movie, it would be that scene where he's like, "No, I did the right thing. I helped him get away because there are people behind me." It was the humans carrying a pitchfork. The mob was coming behind me, and they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't him.
And it helped out later on when you find out.
Yeah, and then you find out he's the son of.
Well, it didn't help him.
It didn't help him. It didn't help him at all.
Because he still got shot and killed and then brought back to life by.
When he got shot, my initial reaction was, I'm done. I was like, I said, the best part of this movie just got killed off, so we could have Will Smith. Though the cool thing that Will Smith did in Will Smith fashion was once his partner died, Will Smith said, "Do it!"
You better kill me.
You better kill me.
Loose.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Because you like that, and that's the one thing I will give Will Smith a lot of credit on is that throughout the movie you do see him start to care about Nick. Like there was one point where he was just like, "Hey, give Poison the wand." He's like, "No, I'm not giving Poison the wand. We have a duty we're gonna do, and we're gonna protect this wand." He's like,
Fine.
So he's like, "You want to die? You want to die in a blaze of glory? You know what? Fine, let's die in a blaze of glory.
Let's do it." And
he's like, "How many bullets do you have?" And he's like, "You ready? 1, 2, 3."
And they just do it. I loved it.
Yeah. So you just see him slowly.
You want to die in a titty bar? Guess we're buying a titty bar.
Yeah, and I that's so I like the fact that Will Smith was, he was. I wouldn't even say he was racist. I would say he was more of a bigot, and because he was just like, look,
that's a good way. Yeah, bigot.
He was like, I'm not like I don't like orcs or whatever. I don't really trust them, but you know what? We're all the races are different, but we treat everyone the same with respect. Blah blah blah. And the more and more you just see how he starts to, care about Nick and how much Nick cared about him in the beginning, and you're just like, come on, dude, just realize the guy likes you or whatever. And so I do give him a lot of credit that you do see him.
Yeah. Well, it was like when they were in the car when they were driving, and he says, "Hey, he was like, Nick was like, I got my human faces," and he made faces, and he was like having a real moment with him. And he says, "How about you show me that face, but you shut the fuck up?" And it's like, oh, okay, so Will Smith's just an asshole.
Well,
at
the same time, I feel like it was also a scene because he was talking about how like, yeah, you're probably not sleeping with your wife anymore, are you? And that's usually a very touchy subject for married men. And And I feel like, and if someone mentioned like, oh yeah, I'm having marital issues, don't bring it up when you're trying to bond. Like that's not a bonding moment. So
So what you're saying is someone who would bring that up would be a complete asshole.
exactly.
Okay. So no, I agree. So we had our pros, our cons, and our pros. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about this that I really liked. Oh, spoiler alert: Will Smith is a bright, which is basically a wizard. Basically, you can hold a wand. The one thing I did like is that if you're not a bright or a wizard and you hold a wand, you blow up, and everything around you kind of blows up too.
Yeah.
That was cool. I liked at the end the orcs gave him respect. That was cool. I think for the most part that's it for what I liked. Any predictions for what you think Bright 2 might be about?
We'll probably get more elf action. Like we'll
Oh.
probably get more like we'll see because right now all we saw are douchebag elves, and I'm sure we'll get.
I
more.
like the FBI elf.
So did I.
I
wanted
thought they were
more.
cool.
I
thought
wanted
the
more with him.
Yeah, I thought the FBI and elf and the human elf that they were really cool.
Human elf.
Sorry, and the human FBI agent. Because if you feel like everyone in this movie is going to be dirty, and when they weren't, that was kind of cool. He was like, I've been hunting this
organization
villain,
down.
for a long time. I was like, cool.
I'm hoping that. I'm actually kind of hoping that Will Smith character and Joel Edgerton kind of upgrade to the FBI, and that's kind of what they do.
No, he wanted to be a cop.
I know. I'm just saying that. Well, once now they realize that Will Smith's a bright and Nick is part of the prophecy, which I thought that was actually kind of funny. Like, hey, I think we're in a prophecy. He's like, we're not in a prophecy. He's like, I think we're in a prophecy. So I actually like that, but I think they're going to realize like, hey, we have to be part of a team that actually is dealing with this. So I can see them becoming FBI agents solely for the fact that they're dealing with this Dark Lord.
Yeah, it's obviously the Dark Lord's coming back, but I think it's going to be they're still cops. I would like to see that it's the second wave of diversity. Like there are now 3 other orc officers in it. I think that'd be kind of cool. And so you had like Nick's character who is very much like, I will play by the rules. I'm the first of our kind who is going to be a police officer, and the next 2 or the next 3 or the next batch are all vastly different personalities. You have the one who's very standoffish, who doesn't want to take off his culture of being an orc, and then you have another one who is like, I want to see different personalities of, like you'd see with people of color or other minorities joining an all
like an Uncle Tom
majority. Yeah. So I think that'd be kind of cool to see the different sides of that. But yeah, so I guess this is the weird part. We need to think of a really good rating system, but out of 10 tokens, what would you give Bright, starring Will Smith and Joel Edgerton?
I would give it like
written by David Ayer, or sorry, Max Landis.
Directed by David Ayer.
Thank you.
I would give Bright out of 10 tokens, 5 tokens.
5 tokens?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it just. Like I said, it was literally okay, and the more and more I talk about it, the more things I'm just kind of like.
That's a lot higher than I thought you'd give it. I thought you'd give it like a 4.
No.
If it's just okay, an okay would just be a 4.
No, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 gets a 4 out of me.
I honestly you made me realize how much I guess I didn't like that movie as much as I thought I did. But no, with Bright,
listen to my podcast. Literally every episode.
I do listen to your podcast.
I know every episode I go into like.
Do you listen to my podcast that you're on?
So what's your rating?
Wow.
I'm just kidding. I listen to your podcast.
Anyway, the one that you're on right now. But no,
podcast?
I give this. I was gonna say give this podcast. I give the movie 6.5. I hate giving it halves, but yeah. It, like you said, it was more than okay for me. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. There are things I wish I could change. I did have reactions like I did during like 42 and Selma, where you watched it, you got so angry about how people are treating someone else or a minority. But no, you gave it a 5. I gave it a 6.5. Yeah, so those aren't awful scores for apparently the worst movie of all time.
Score anything over like a 6 and above is good. Anything 5 and lower is like nah.
But no. So that pretty much concludes our Bright review. We're still under the 50-minute marker. So plug us. You keep talking about your podcast and what you want to do with your podcast. So tell the 3 people who listen to this podcast about it.
Well, to my 5 listeners, you obviously know my podcast is called The Real Film Geeks, and that's where me and my co-host Zeb talk about films and our opinions on film. Sometimes film news, reviews, and then just deep conversations about film and TV in general.
Hmm.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Real Film Geeks.
All right. And as for me, you can follow us, the Token Nerds, on the Instagram, which is token_nerd, Twitter, token_nerd, and Facebook, token_nerd00. You can follow us there and see what we're posting. We'll do, as news pops up, or mostly as Funko Pop figures are released, we do post it on our social media. We are, I keep saying, going to have an actual schedule for 2018. I've said that every time we've done these podcasts that we're going to have an actual schedule, but I think I've got it down. I think I got a schedule that works with the other people who want to work with us and do specials and interviews and commentaries and stuff like that. So we'll have some stuff coming up in the following year. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Like I said, definitely check out our other social media. Give Addison a like. And yeah, so keep supporting us so that we can keep making these things. If you have any questions, you can send us an email at tokennerdpodcast@gmail.com. We can answer that on the air. We've always wanted to do that. I think we've had 5 questions total since we've been doing this, but it's a small podcast, so that's what you kind of assume to happen. But no, as always, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, even though it's just a slideshow. But also let me know what you think of the clip art. I was really proud of it when I made it because since it was made by David Ayer, this movie, I changed the photo to be Will Smith from Suicide Squad. And instead of Joel Edgerton, I put whatever Killer Croc's actor's name was on it. So I'm very proud of it. Let me know what you think. So anyway, as always, guys, stay spicy. Whoa, that was wrong.
That's very.
I was
wrong.
not even. Thank you for watching. As always, stay spicy, my friends.